Hello everyone, this will be a no-nonsense guide to Cuphead going over everything to do with the first isle of the game, simplifying the game as much as possible while offering as many useful tips, tricks, and bits of knowledge every player new to Cuphead should know. When you first enter the world of Cuphead, you'll want to enter the tutorial not only to learn the game of course, but also for the free coin at the end of the level. Coins are used to buy weapons and charms at Porkrind's Emporium, the shop in Cuphead. Luckily, some of the best items in the game are available right at the start, so you simply need to get enough coins to buy them all. Weapons cost 4 coins while charms cost 3. With this free coin, we can leave Elder Kettle's house and next go to Mac, the apple boy sitting on the bridge to Aisle 1, which when talked to will give you 3 coins. You'll want to talk to NPCs since most of them will hint at secrets or ways to unlock things in the game, with some even having side quests you can fulfill for a free coin, new music, or a color filter. Speaking of which, each of the 3 main aisles has around 2 secrets or more, so exploring is encouraged. The first thing you'll probably see is this target on the ground, which is a run and gun level. Each aisle has 2 run and guns. These levels are the main way to acquire coins for the shop. I encourage you to beat one of the 2 run and guns on this aisle before going to the shop or fighting your first boss. Like I said before, there are secrets on each aisle, and the main secret on each aisle is a shortcut to get past areas early. You can go up here to skip the previous area and go straight to the next run and gun level, which I believe is easier than the first one. Unfortunately, I won't be going over how to beat each run and gun in this video for a few reasons. The run and guns are honestly easy enough to brute force if you're holding the shoot button the entire time. You can simply take your time collecting all the coins and beat the level without too much trouble other than initially learning the level. There also isn't a foolproof way of explaining how to get past each level normally, and it would only make this video longer than it needs to be. I do have a guide on P-ranking each run and gun that's meant for more advanced players, but nonetheless can be very useful in learning how someone experienced gets past the run and gun levels without eliminating any enemies. A P-rank is a type of grade you can get in this game since Cuphead has a scoring system, but we'll be going over that later. Simply beat the run and gun while collecting all the coins, and make sure to hold your shoot button the entire time to eliminate everything in your way. Assuming you beat one of the run and guns and got 5 coins, you should now have 9 coins to play with. You'll want to go to the shop and purchase 2 of these 3 items, Spread, Smoke Bomb, and Roundabout. These are items that you will be using for the rest of the game, they are that good. Spread is a shotgun-like weapon that deals the most damage per second in the game, and still deals good damage even if some shots aren't hitting. Roundabout is a boomerang-like weapon that shoots forward for a bit before boomeranging back across the rest of the stage, so shooting in either direction has your shot hit the boss anyways. And Smoke Bomb allows you to dodge through obstacles with ease, but it takes some time to learn the dash distance since you can't see how far you're dashing. The choice is up to you, but if you're looking for an easy weapon that could help more people access the game, you could always buy Chaser to help out. Chaser is a homing weapon that deals half as much damage as the other weapons, but you won't have to aim your weapon well to deal damage. In my opinion, I would only recommend Chaser if you don't care about anything else but getting through the game. There's different opinions and arguments about it, but this is supposed to be a no-nonsense guide, so I say don't use it if you want to actually learn and play the game in the intended way. After leaving the shop, you'll need to equip your new items, pressing whatever button is shown in the top right of the screen. This is your loadout, which is where you can equip up to 2 weapons, 1 super art which we will go over later since we don't have any right now, and 1 charm. You'll want to equip whatever long-range weapon you have as your first shot and your backup, support, or close-range weapon as your second shot. In this case, Roundabout is your first shot and Spread your second. Your weapon matters quite a bit because each weapon has a special attack called an EX that you can activate to deal a burst of damage. Let's explain how EXs work real quick. Each weapon has an EX attack that takes 1 EX card to use, and you can have a max of 5 cards at any time. You gain EX cards slowly by dealing damage, or gain 1 immediately when you parry an attack, which we'll go over parries more later. EXs are vital to dealing as much damage as possible in Cuphead, but are by no means required to play the game. They simply help with beating bosses faster and easier, and have other purposes than dealing damage. At this point, you can decide to fight one of the 2 starter bosses, Goopy Le Grande or the Root Pack. I recommend fighting Goopy first because he has an ultra simple moveset but still challenges you to pay attention and helps you understand the fundamentals of Cuphead. Here's how to fight him. Goopy, when you first start the fight, will jump around 5 to 7 times at a consistent pace and at slightly different distances each time. But there is also a chance Goopy stutters a bit before a jump, so the timing on each jump is not always consistent, but mostly. It's simple. If you're using Spread, follow behind him and track him while shooting. If you're using Roundabout, simply shoot while around him. It's that easy. Most shots with Roundabout should land regardless if you're looking directly at him or looking away, but of course following and aiming at Goopy is the fastest way to beat his first phase. You can also use your weapon lock button to aim your weapon while standing still and hit him while in the air for extra damage. After 5 to 7 jumps, he'll stop and lean back to telegraph his attack before lunging forward. Simply duck to avoid the attack. After, he'll repeat this jump and attack pattern, and he shouldn't do this attack more than 2 times before you deal enough damage to enter his next phase. He'll stop in place and flick a pill into his mouth, and 3 pink question marks will appear above his head before he grows much larger than before. Anything that is colored pink can be parried, which can be triggered by pressing the jump button while in the air. You will need to time your jump button presses while near the pink question marks to parry them in a sequence, and after, I recommend landing behind him if possible. It's just a better position to be in. When he fully enters his second phase, he will always jump exactly 3 times before attacking, with all the same rules and pacing as the first phase, just with him bigger. Utilize your dash or smoke bomb to move out of danger in time. You do the exact same thing as the first phase, follow him with your shot, and dodge under his attack. It's the same exact attack just reskinned, there's nothing else to it. After that first attack, he'll go back to the 5 to 7 jump and attack pattern. Survive about 2 attacks and he should enter his last phase by then. He'll stop in place and get all woozy before his large gravestone crushes him. The gravestone will move and stop at each side of the screen 2 to 3 times before he moves to you and winds back before trying to slam himself onto you. You'll need to aim up and diagonally to hit him during this last phase, and use the weapon lock button to keep yourself in place if needed. When he readies himself to slam down, dash out of the way. Rinse and repeat, and you've just beaten your first boss in Cuphead. At the end of a level, you'll see the scorecard and get a grade based on how well you performed according to a few metrics. Those are how long it took you to beat the level, how much HP you had by the end of the level, how many parries you got, how many EX cards you used in boss levels, or how many coins you got in run and guns, and what difficulty you were playing on. Here's a lightning round of explanations. For the best grade, you need to beat a boss in under 2 minutes, have at least 3 HP by the end of the fight, parry 3 pink attacks or objects, use at least 6 EX cards, and simply play on regular for the highest grade possible currently. Your grade doesn't necessarily matter in terms of progressing the game, but getting high grades on all levels unlocks achievements and other secrets later in the game. To get this out of the way now, you can't progress the game by playing on the easier difficulty simple. You also get access to the other difficulty expert once you beat the game, which lets you get the actual highest grade possible. So after beating Goopy, I would fight the root pack next or do the next run and gun that you haven't completed. This is how you fight the root pack. When you enter the fight, you'll have to fight South Sputter first. He'll shoot 3 dirt balls out of his mouth before shooting a pink worm that can be parried. You simply time your jumps early to avoid the dirt balls the first 3 times, then jump a bit earlier than that to lead yourself into parrying the pink worm. Or you can back up and give yourself some space to parry. While dodging his attacks, simply hold the attack button while looking at him with spread, making sure to be close enough to hit your shots. While with roundabout, as long as you're around the middle of the stage, you'll hit your shots no matter what direction you're aiming. He'll repeat the same exact attack but faster, using the same method to dodge but jumping a bit sooner than before. And then he'll do the same attack for a 3rd time but at an even faster rate, and you dodge it the same way. That should be all you need to do. You can decide to take a damage and walk behind him to completely avoid him and his attacks altogether, but I don't recommend you do this. It's really unnecessary in my opinion, but it's still an option. When you beat him, walk to either side of the screen to make space for the second boss, Ollie Bulb. After some time, he'll begin crying and tears will fall from the sky. Aim and shoot at Ollie Bulb while paying attention above you and make small movement adjustments to avoid the tears. There are pink tears you can parry if you desperately need the parry requirement, but I don't recommend you go for them. It's typically too risky unless you feel confident getting them. After not a lot of time, Ollie Bulb will go down, literally. The last boss is Chauncey Chantenay, and he is by far the hardest part of this fight. You'll have to aim upwards to hit him, and his hitbox is a bit small so it can be hard to hit him sometimes. Right after he spouts out from the ground, he'll start summoning carrots that home in towards you. You'll need to deal damage to him while shooting down these carrots, which only take a shot or 2 to eliminate. After some time, he will switch attacks and shoot 3 laser beams at you, which you simply dodge or dash out of the way for. He'll rinse and repeat until you beat him. There is a secret to this boss that you can trigger if you want, but it makes their last phase harder for not much reason, so do this only if you want. When you beat South Sputter and Ollie Bulb comes out, if you deal no damage to him before his first attack comes out, he will instead be happy and lower back down and skip to the final phase. But another enemy, Horace Radish, will pop up and become another obstacle to deal with during the last phase, following you wherever you go and forcing you to constantly dodge out of the way. It's a fun secret phase, but one you wouldn't trigger unless you wanted to have a harder time. That should be all there is for the Root Pack. You have a few options on what to do next. If you travel across the bridge into the southeast side of the isle, you'll find the first mausoleum of the game. These are a challenge level that tests your ability to parry, and it rewards you with your first super art of Cuphead, Energy Beam. This is a special attack that requires you to use 5 EX cards to deal a huge burst of damage. The general rule is that using 5 EX attacks will deal more damage than using 1 super art, but that is only if you hit all 5 attacks and hit them well since EX attacks vary per weapon. If you don't care to use EX attacks much or want something easy to use, then I'd recommend using the super art and making sure you use it at least once if not twice per boss fight. Otherwise, I would highly encourage you to use EX attacks the majority of the time to deal more damage and get better at the game. And again, EXs can be used in other ways, not just for dealing damage. You can still use EXs while having a super art equipped, but once you reach 5 cards, you have to super before using EXs again, but not having a super art equipped at all skips this worry entirely. So it's personal preference whether you want to equip a super art or not. You aren't required to beat these mausoleums to progress the game, but it is a significant part of the game that can also help you with parrying. You can also replay mausoleums by holding both triggers on controller when standing in front of it. Since you should have beaten the root pack, you have the choice of either fighting Ribby Croaks, the boat next to the root pack, or you can fight Hilda Berg, a new type of boss fight that uses new mechanics you'll have to learn. And just in case you haven't by now, I would highly recommend beating the other run and gun on the Isle. You should try to have Roundabout, Spread, and Smoke Bomb equipped at this point. They will help greatly with the last 2 normal bosses on this Isle. Let's go over Ribby and Croaks first, since they're more straightforward to explain. Firstly, both Spread and Roundabout work wonders during this boss fight, but just using Spread will be difficult for the last phase, so if you for whatever reason don't have Roundabout, then you should equip Pew Shooter or another long-range weapon as your other shot for this boss. The fight starts with 2 frogs that alternate attacks. Ribby will wind up before throwing 12 energy fists in a sequence towards you in a set pattern. 1 fist near the ground, 1 at chest level, and 1 above your head. Then the pattern reverses after the 3rd fist, then everything repeats 1 more time. After every second blue fist will be a pink fist that you can parry. I would use only your long-range weapon for this attack, especially since you can just turn around with Roundabout and focus purely on dodging and parrying while all your shots still hit. After this attack, the other frog Croaks will spit out some amount of fireflies that will slowly inch closer towards you to hit you, which can easily be eliminated with 1 shot. Spread is the best weapon to deal with these fireflies, and during this attack is also your best opportunity to deal massive damage to the boss up close with Spread. Roundabout's EX also deals massive damage here. I would highly recommend spamming Roundabout's EX whenever you safely can. The frogs will keep alternating attacks until their next phase. Ribby will lean down and get ready to roll across the screen, and when he does, simply jump and dash over him, or you can smoke dash through him if you have that. He'll crash and stand on the opposite side of the screen as Croaks, and they will now attack together. Croaks will spin his body like a fan and start blowing you towards Ribby for an extended period of time before a small cooldown, meaning you'll have to constantly move against the fan to not run into Ribby. All the while, Ribby will periodically slap 3 ringed balls that bounce up and down the stage, forcing you to avoid them while resisting the fan. You can simply move ahead of the balls when they hit the ground, dash away, or smoke dash through the ball, or simply let the fan blow you behind the ball to avoid it. A word of caution, do not dash towards Ribby. That is a quick way of getting yourself hit in record time. Only dash towards Croaks if you have to. While you're avoiding danger, you can simply hold shoot with whatever ranged weapon you're using since you will literally hit them no matter where you're looking. But this is also your opportunity to deal tons of spread damage to Croaks if you can manage it. After enough damage, Ribby will get ready to roll over again, and this is your opportunity to farm EX cards on Croaks by continuing shooting him before Ribby rolls over. For your information, they don't actually take any damage during this transition to their last phase, but being able to farm EX cards helps with beating their last phase faster with EXs or your super. You'll now have to dodge Ribby coming from the left side of the screen by again jumping and dashing over or smoke dashing through him. He'll roll into Croaks' mouth and miraculously turn into a huge slot machine. They are invincible for the time being, and coins will begin continuously spitting out of the machine until the crank drops down and becomes parryable. The coin typically aims for wherever you were when it came out, so it makes it easy to bait the coin away from you if you time your movements right. You'll eventually parry the crank and the slot machine will start spinning, with one of 3 attacks being selected at random: the bull, the snake, and the tiger, with that order being from easiest to hardest in my opinion. Each of these spawn a different type of chip attack you'll need to constantly avoid, with the spawn rate and speed increasing faster and faster until the attack ends. During these chip attacks is when they can take damage again. The bull summons red chips that float across the middle of the screen and shoot fire jets either upwards or downwards. The way to easily counter this is to stand all the way on the edge of the left screen and look away from them if you're using roundabout, or look towards them if you're using another ranged weapon. Then you simply jump if the fire comes from below, and simply don't move if the fire comes from above. You will just have to time your jump slightly if multiple chips in a row are shooting fire downwards. The snake is the next easiest that requires a bit of movement skill to pull off. The snake summons green chips that speed through the stage, and they need to be jumped on continuously to avoid taking damage. You'll want to jump to every other chip to keep up with it. Once the chips start accelerating faster and getting closer together, you'll need to start lightly tapping the jump button to perform small jumps and continue to land on every other chip. This attack in particular, you can get away with using spread up close if you can handle it, but normally you'd spam your long range weapon to deal damage consistently. The last attack is the tiger, and takes the most skill to avoid damage. Orange chips will slide across the screen with spikes on the sides and an orange ball bouncing up and down from the center of the chip. You'll have to jump between the balls to land on the other side of the chip and repeat over and over again while the chips move closer and closer to each other until the end of the attack. The balls always bounce in a set pattern, so it's relatively easy to dodge the ball. It's more the spacing between the chips and the pressure of the attack that really gets to you near the end of it. This is also the attack that you'll probably deal the least amount of damage to the boss, but I would always recommend focusing on dodging rather than damage if you need to. Purely focus on getting past the attack and you'll do at least a good bit of damage and can focus on dealing damage on one of the other attacks. If you're using Roundabout, you should beat this boss within 2 rotations of the slot machine, maybe more if you're not hitting the boss as much. And that should be everything you need to know about beating Ribby and Croaks. After beating them, you should only have 2 bosses left to fight, Hilda Berg and Cagney Carnation, which we'll be going over Hilda Berg next. Hilda Berg is a plane level where you'll have specific weapons you use only for these types of fights, in this case the plane Pew Shooter and the special plane Super. The only part of your loadout that actually matters for plane bosses is your charm. To get to Hilda Berg, you'll need to walk up beside Goopy's boss fight and follow the path ahead. You'll find Canteen Hughes and his blueprint right next to him that has the tutorial on how planes work. Very quick explanation. You can move in all 8 directions, you have only the plane Pew Shooter as your main weapon, you automatically have a plane Super Art which is a bomb that deals tons of direct and splash damage when it hits, the jump button now simply parries whatever's pink in front of you, and most importantly, your dash now instead makes you miniaturized, harder to hit, and you move a lot faster to dodge easier, but your bullets have no range and deal little damage. It might sound like a lot now, but actually playing the plane boss, you'll have a better understanding on how everything works together. So let's get into how to beat our first plane boss, Hilda Berg. Hilda Berg's fight has a lot of stuff to go over, so buckle up. Hilda Berg's attack is simple. She'll fly up and down on the right side of the screen and will attack periodically with a physical onomatopoeia of her laughter that she'll shoot towards you. All the while, small toy zeppelins will fly in regularly from the right side and shoot a number of bullets depending on their color. Purple zeppelins shoot 1 bullet while green zeppelins shoot a shotgun spread of 4. These zeppelins can be shot down with a few well-placed shots. During this boss fight, you'll need to follow the boss's flight pattern while shooting to make sure you are consistently hitting and dealing damage. It's a pretty simple up and down swaying motion that can be tracked easily. It'll make it much easier to beat Hilda Berg if you learn to hit while dodging, and make sure to utilize your mini form to make fast dodges or to dodge a long distance. Well, you're basically spam shooting until she transitions to her next phase, which is when she takes a deep breath. You'll want to get out of her way since she shoots herself across the screen and slowly flies across the screen again back to the right side. While she is flying back to the right side, make sure to shoot her during this to deal easy early damage. Bonus point if you EX right before she transitions to her constellation form. So as you've probably guessed by now, Hilda Berg is a constellation boss that transforms into a set of constellations during her unique phases. On regular, she will always transform into the Taurus constellation first. This one is quite simple. She'll turn into a huge bull that will periodically lunge forward and take up that entire part of the screen. The Taurus will stop briefly before lunging, which is your cue to fly as far away as possible. That's pretty much all there is to this phase, but beware that at the end of this phase, the Taurus will nearly always perform a final lunge attack before transforming back to Hilda Berg. Well, you'll eventually beat the Taurus and Hilda Berg will revert back to her first phase, but there will be a couple additional obstacles to worry about. First, the green zeppelins I mentioned earlier should now officially join the battle. You'll also have to deal with a new tornado attack from Hilda Berg, which she'll throw towards you slowly. For this attack, I would recommend going mini to dodge this, especially since this attack is frequently comboed with a purple or green zeppelin shot. I recommend you focus on shooting down the green zeppelins if you are having too much trouble dodging the shotgun spread while dealing with everything else. With that all said, you're doing the same things you did in the first phase, just with more stuff to dodge. She'll eventually take a deep breath and transition to her next constellation, but this time it can be one of 2 choices, the Gemini Twins or the Sagittarius. The Gemini Twins are much easier to beat than the Sagittarius, but regardless, I recommend you save up to 5 EX cards specifically to super these 2 bosses. If you hit them with the super shortly after they transform, then you'll most likely only have to deal with one of their attacks rather than multiple, but you still need to make sure to deal as much damage as possible during and after the transformation for this to work properly. The Gemini Twins will summon a vortex around the middle left side of the screen, and shortly after it will spew a line of bullets while rotating, and it will stop shooting after a full rotation. The direction in which the bullets start shooting from is random, so you'll need to pay attention and react to the bullet's direction. Simply follow ahead or behind the rotation of the bullets and you'll be fine. There will always be a purple zeppelin that comes out during the beginning of this attack that shoots a pink shot for you to parry, and I believe this is actually true on all the phases at specific points, but the Gemini Twins is the easiest and most consistent one to get. That's pretty much it for the Gemini Twins. The Sagittarius on the other hand isn't complex, but you have a much higher chance of taking damage on him. Shortly after Hilda Berg transforms into the Sagittarius, he will almost immediately shoot his bow and launch an arrow across the screen with 3 blue homing stars being shot out as well. These will keep following you until you shoot them down. I recommend using your super on this boss so you can time your super right as he's about to shoot his bow to both deal him tons of damage and to destroy the stars immediately. And like I said, you shouldn't have to deal with another attack from him if you've dealt enough damage before and after that super. He will of course continue to shoot his bow periodically until you force the transformation back to Hilda Berg. All this sounds simple on paper, but having to deal with everything together, specifically the Zeppelins while dodging everything else, it can lead you taking a lot of stupid hits for a lot of stupid reasons, and the Sagittarius exploits that the most in my opinion, so get past him ASAP. After the transformation back to Hilda Berg, you are quite literally dealing with the same Hilda Berg phase as before, but with many more purple Zeppelins to deal with. Do everything you've done before, and you'll eventually start to see her shake erratically. This is her entering a long transition to her last phase, and shooting her doesn't actually deal damage to her HP, but it does build up EX cards, so keep shooting if you want more cards or your super. She'll transform into a huge moon, and stars will start flying across the screen from right to left at fluctuating speeds. This is an extremely long phase that will take some time to beat, so you'll need to be on top of your game to dodge the stars and the other attack we're about to go over. She'll intermittently extend her face outwards, and UFOs will start coming out of her with two different variations, a red and gold UFO. The UFOs will attack with a laser beam, which triggers differently depending on the UFO color. The red UFOs will attack only once you've passed under the UFO, while the gold UFOs will attack when you're just in front of the UFO. So this means you'll want to dodge through the red UFOs and bait the gold UFOs. And by the way, her nose has no hitbox, so you don't have to worry about taking damage there. Well, from here on out, you're having to deal with everything all together, and after about 2 rotations of the UFOs, you should beat Hilda Berg. Oof, that was a lot. Sadly, I can only explain how the attacks work and what, if any ways, there are to counter that attack, but everything else from dodging to performing strategies correctly all comes up to you, time, and experience. Now that her fight has been explained, hopefully you find it easier to beat. We still have one more boss to go over, but one last time, by now you should have definitely beaten both the run and guns, have roundabout spread and smoke bomb equipped, and should have beaten the mausoleum on this isle. Last but not least is Cagney Carnation. You move on downwards into the right past the forest, and here you'll find the last boss of this isle. When you first enter the fight, you'll see 3 floating platforms that you can stand on to be on the same level as Cagney, which lets you deal damage easier to his face. You can also stay on the ground and hold the weapon lock button to aim diagonally and hit his face that way. Cagney's hitbox is a bit small, so don't expect to hit all your shots. Anyway, Cagney's phases work slightly differently than other bosses, so I'll be focusing solely on explaining the attacks and how to approach them. Cagney will either do a lunge attack or a seed attack, and he will alternate between those 2 attacks. The lunge attack is a usual bread and butter attack you've seen from the other bosses and the one we just went over, Hilda Berg. He'll telegraph his lunge before taking up the top or bottom side of the screen, and simply stand on the opposite side to avoid the attack. The seed attack is probably the hardest attack to deal with during this fight. Cagney will start shooting seeds into the air, and they will fall from the sky in random areas. You'll have to dodge these seeds as they fall to the ground, and when they hit the ground, they do something different depending on their color. The blue seeds spawn a vine and release a small green toothy terror that follows you and tries to hit you like a slow homing missile. The purple seeds spawn a baby toothy terror that stays on the ground and acts as a floor trap, and the pink seeds can of course be parried, but if you don't and they hit the ground, it will spawn a floating toothy terror that will fly above you and occasionally shoot another pink seed directly at you. Only one floating toothy terror can be on screen at a time, and pink seeds that hit the ground while one is out spawn the green toothy terrors instead. It's also important to note that they are invincible until they open up and shoot the pink seed at you. I know that was a lot, so let's now simplify how to get past this attack. You'll want to deal as much damage as you comfortably can, either up close with spread and roundabout, or as far as possible while turned around with roundabout. The seeds are honestly pretty easy to react to and dodge, but I would also recommend staying on the ground and preparing yourself to parry the pink seed if that's something that concerns you. You'll also want to shoot the toothy terrors down when you can, or you're gonna need a lot more than 3 HP for this fight. There's not much more I can say for this other than to take your time if you need to and stick to the far platform and spam roundabout to play it safe. He'll switch to a different attack sequence after enough damage is dealt. Speaking of which, after enough damage has been dealt, he'll swap the seed attack with another attack that we call Magic Hands. He'll cup his hands together and either summon a boomerang seed that travels across the platforms first, then comes back from the left and flies across the ground, or he'll summon 3 acorns that travel one by one towards where you were when it started moving. You can duck to dodge the boomerang pretty easily, and the acorns are slow and also easy to react to. Just stay back and wait until they get close and jump over them. Cagney will chain up to 3 of these attacks together at random, so you might get 2 boomerangs and 1 acorn attack, or 1 boomerang then 1 acorn then 1 boomerang attack, or some other combination. Cagney will alternate between this Magic Hands attack and the lunge attack from before. After enough damage, he will begin alternating between the Magic Hands and the seed attack rather than the Magic Hands and lunge attack pattern. You do everything that you've been doing before until he finally enters his last phase. He'll pull his petals in frustration and sprout thorny vines that spread across the ground, making it unsafe to stand on and forcing you onto the platforms. Right after, vines will grow below 1 to 2 of the 3 platforms at a time before shooting upwards and encasing the platform and area with vines. You'll have to dodge from platform to platform, avoiding the vines and trapped platforms. You'll want to move as soon as you see the vines grow below the platform you're on and jump and dash if needed over to the open platform. You can also dodge the trapped platforms with a well-timed EX attack, but that's a pretty intermediate but cool technique to pull off. Cagney will also spit out dandelions that travel across the screen slowly at random intervals, and sometimes he'll shoot 2 dandelions back to back. I would play it extremely safe for this phase if it becomes too intense or overwhelming, and stick to Roundabout in the middle platform and focus entirely on dodging and reacting to everything. And after enough time and dedication, you will have officially beaten Cagney Carnation in all of Isle 1. Wow, we finally got through everything you would need to know to easily beat Isle 1 of Cuphead. But there is one last thing we can't forget. After the Cagney fight, you can now go up to Chip the Axeman, which you passed on the way to Cagney's fight, and you might notice there's a sneaky coin hiding in the trees next to Chip. Now that we've beaten all the bosses on this isle, Chip lets us get the secret coin that's been chilling here since the start. Now that's everything you need to know about this isle. Well, this has been the Beginner's Guide to Cuphead Isle 1, and if you got anything out of this video, I would appreciate liking, subscribing, or sharing the video to help out the channel. Please leave a comment down below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and I will surely read them. I decided to make this video because I never felt like I could reliably help out a newer player to Cuphead with the content I have currently, since I tailor towards experienced players or people that want to get better or more experienced. I felt like I couldn't point to anything easy that explains most of what you need to know just to play Cuphead in general. That's why I started my shorts content to go over simpler or specific topics, and tips and tricks you can implement into your everyday Cuphead gameplay. But now, anyone from any time can reference this video if they need help understanding how to play the game, certain mechanics, phases, or attacks that I do truly hope I explained well enough for you all without being completely overwhelming to listen to. Well, thank you all for watching, thank you all for trying out the amazing world of Cuphead, and I will see you in Isle 2.
That's all there is? There isn't anymore. Or is there?